Depending on what your circumstances was, that's what your name is. You know, you remember the woman at the well, she don't have a name. You remember the prodigal son. You remember the woman with the issue of blood. And I want to tag that just for a second here, because I dare you to go through a circumstance and see what your name is all over the time. That she is. That's the one who lost her job. That's the one who husband left her. That's the one who lost their house. Amen. That's the one who beat his wife last week. Amen. You will be labeled by your circumstance. Amen. This man with no name, he was unacceptable to society. He spent his days and nights screaming and cutting himself with stones in the mountains. And he did it with no clothes on. Now that sounds insane, don't it? That sounds like insanity, but let's look at insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. And that sounds just like us. We might not be screaming and cutting ourselves in the mountains, but we repeatedly do things that are contrary to the will of God, and we expect some good to come out of it. You know what we do? We take people who are unequally yoked, and we expect to have a good relationship. We sit up all afternoon and we watch Oprah and listen to her tell us to put our kids in time out, and then wonder why our kids going crazy. Amen. We figure out everything to spend our money on but tithe, and then we say, God, where my man? Amen. That's insanity. Look at somebody and say, now that's insanity. Now let's look at the scripture. There are several things that we got to examine about this man. We're going to look at verse 3, if you could put it on the screen. And it says, first it's talking about this man, he has an unclean spirit, but in verse 3, it says, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, no, not even with chains. Amen. Now that shows me two things. One, this man is in the tombs because he wanted to be in the tombs. It says he had his dwelling in the tombs. Not only that, but further evidence to support that is because it says that no man could bind him, not even with chains. So if they can't hold you, then that means you do what you want to do when you get ready to do it, when you feel like doing it. Amen? So he decided that because of his circumstances, I'm going to make my home in the tombs. Now you tell me, that might sound crazy to you, but it's not so crazy to me because I've been just like that man. How many people in here ever been through a circumstance before where the last thing you wanted to do was be around people? Amen? All you wanted to do is get by yourself and throw your own little pity party because of your circumstance. If you can't say amen to that, you ain't never been through nothing. Amen? Now that brings me to that was my first point, his home. Okay, my second point is his happiness. Let's look at his happiness. Now his happiness was that he was in the tombs with the dead people. He was tormented, he was yelling, he was cutting himself night and day, and he was naked. Let's not forget that. Undoubtedly, there were people around him who cared. And the way that I know that there were people around him who cared, it said that no man could bind him, not even with chains. So who was the man who was trying to bind him? Okay? So there were people around him who cared. But there is a problem with that. Only thing they tried to do is hold him down. Never once does the Bible say that anybody made any moves to change him. Amen? And that's a problem. You cannot hold a good man down. They tried to medicate the symptom. The symptom was the cutting, but they ignored the disease, which was the demon. Amen? You are medicating the system when the symptom, when you go off on somebody at work, that's just the symptom. When you yell at your kids, you yelling at the symptom. When you fall out with your neighbor, you are yelling at the symptom. The Bible says we battle not against flesh and blood. The disease is the principalities in high places. Amen? Without a doubt, these people were holding the man down. They felt like they were helping him. But sometimes perceived help can be a permanent hindrance. I'm going